Hi everyone, good day. Trust we're having a great day. So just to pick up from where we stopped the last time, if we all remember, we did this exercise at the ending of previous class. We were able to complete this exercise that we were able to make this page using HTML. Let me quickly go to the browser. So yeah, this was what we were able to do using HTML, using just a few lines of code. And so yeah, that's basically all we did the previous time. And I said this time around we'll be looking into more tags, because like I said, everything in HTML is made up of elements, and elements consist of tags. So therefore that means that whatever we're trying to create or implement in the structure of our HTML document, we have to use HTML elements or HTML tags, right? So we have to know as much tags as we can, not necessarily to cram all of them, but to know enough and to know how to use basically anyone. So even if you have to quickly Google, okay, what tag do you use for this and this, you know how to use it, right? You're not confused. So basically, before we go in through some of the tags, we want to look at how text is formatted in HTML, because a lot of what we do in HTML, in fact most of it is text, right? Even the tags and all, right? It's all made up of text. We write headings, we write paragraphs, we write tables, we write lists, forms. Most of it consists of text, right? So it's majority of text. So we have to know how text is formatted, right? So it says here how white space is collapsed. Most structured text consists of headings and paragraphs, whether you are reading a story, a newspaper, a college textbook, a magazine, etc. This paragraph below shows how multiple spaces between words are treated as a single space. This is known as white space collapsing. And the big spaces between some of the words will not appear in the browser. It also demonstrates how the browser will treat multiple carriage returns, that are new lines, as a single space too. So basically what this is saying is that any form of structured text you come across in this life consists of headings and paragraphs. Whether it's books you're reading, whether it's newspaper, whether it's social media posts, whether it's magazines, whatever it is, school books, even religious books, there's always heading and there's paragraphs, right? So when it comes to HTML, when you're writing your HTML code, a lot of times you might mistakenly add too much space. And what this is basically saying is that no matter how many space you add in between different words, your browser will collapse them into one space, right? That means it will only display one space, no matter how much space you add in between your words, right? Then secondly, it also says that the big spaces between some of the words will not appear in the browser. It also demonstrates how the browser will treat multiple carriage returns, that's new lines. So if you are coding and you mistakenly enter too many new lines, like you press enter again and it keeps going down, your browser also interprets it as a single space, right? So let's just go ahead and, okay, this is an example, but let's go ahead and try it out ourselves, so we can see what it actually looks like. So I'll just go over to our text editor here. So this is what we did the last time, so I'll just go ahead and add some random space. Okay, I'm not sure you can see this. Let me make it a bit bigger. Great. So I'll just add some random spaces to see how the browser interprets it. Just add space here. Add space here. And let's save this and see how the browser will interpret. So all I have to do is come here and refresh. As you can see, nothing changes. But if you check the code, you see that the space is here. Right? If you are confused on how I got here, just right click on your and view page source. So you can see that the space is actually here. The only difference is that the browser does not display this excess space. It collapsed everything into just one single space. So that's basically how your browser interprets space between words. Then when it comes to, and so let's go to this universally accessible here. So let's press enter, so let's come down, go to this. So these are what we call new lines, right? So let's save it. Let's go over to our browser and refresh. You see that still nothing changes. If you come over to your code and you refresh, you see that the new lines are added here. The new lines are actually in the code, but the browser collapses everything into a single line because it takes it as you making a mistake, right? So that's why if you ever want to add too much space between words intentionally, there are ways to go about that. And if you want to add multiple lines, like lines of space between paragraphs, there are also ways to go about that. But if you do it like this, your browser will see it as you, okay, he made a mistake, let me fix it for him, right? So that's basically what that was talking about. So let's come back here. Okay, so next we are going to talk about headings. So here it says creating headings using the HN elements. So the HTML H1 to H6 elements represent 6 levels of section headings. H1 is the highest section level and H6 is the lowest section. Is the lowest, right? The lowest section level. So what that means is that we have 6 different categories of heading in HTML. If you want to write a heading, you can either use H1 or H2 or H3 or H4 or H5 or H6. What's the difference? The difference is basically the size. H1 being the largest and H6 being the smallest. So it follows that order sequentially. So let's go ahead and just try it out in our code to see what it looks like. So I'll just undo all this. So let me copy this so that we can just paste it multiple times. So Ctrl V, okay, sorry. I don't like the way that's copied. Copy. Just paste it till you have 6 of them. I think there should be 6. Then you change it from H1 here to H2. Make sure you change it also in the closing tag. H2, H3, H3, H4. Close it. I think we have more than H5, H5, H6, H6. So let's delete this one since it's irrelevant to us. Great, so now that we have 6 headings, let's go ahead and see what it looks like on the browser. So remember to save. Then go to your browser and reload. Great. So now you can see the 6 different levels of heading. We have the H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. So basically you can see that the difference is the size. Basically they are all bold. It's just the size that is different. So if you go again to our code and check it, you see that everything is just how we wrote it out. So basically that's what headings are all about. These are the 6 options you have. typically when you're creating your page, you prefer to use one H1 heading for a single page, because that helps your page SEO ranking. That's another whole thing, but it's best practice to always use only one H1 per page, and that H1 should be your main heading and should be the heading or the title of the page overall, the overall page. So if, for example, if we have an about us page, then we'll have a H1 that says about us. Then we can have other headings to be H2 or H3. You hardly see a page that basically uses all of them. But so yeah, that's how it is. Let's go back to our document. Okay, so what's next? We've already done this. We have structuring headings and paragraphs. So almost every document you create will contain some form of text, definitely. White space and flow. Before you start to mark up your text, it is best to understand what HTML does when it comes across spaces and how browser treat long sentences and paragraphs of text. Creating headings. No matter what sort of document you are creating, most documents have headings in some form or the other, right? So this is basically what they just did here, right? This is what they did underneath here. I don't think it should be a problem, but let's go ahead and do that. I'll just copy and paste so that see what it looks like. So okay, so it's basic text formatting. So I don't really think we need to write this out because it's basically just headings and paragraphs, right? This is H1. Let me highlight that so that you can see it. Okay. If you can see it, this is basically H1, this is paragraph, H2. So basically that's what they just did here, some headings and paragraphs, and what they are trying to explain here is that when you are creating documents, it is almost every document you create, it's almost unavoidable. You have to give your paragraphs headings so that people will know what the paragraph underneath is trying to explain, right? So you go about that by using your H1 or H2 or any heading you prefer. You go ahead, you use your heading elements to create the headings and use your P element to create the paragraphs. I think it's pretty straightforward. Then creating paragraphs using the P element. This should be the most easiest one for anyone to pick up because it's basically just P. So the HTML P element represents a paragraph. Paragraphs are usually presented in visual media as blocks of text separated from adjacent blocks by blank lines and or first line indentation. But HTML paragraphs can be any structural grouping of related content such as images or form fields. So basically what they are saying is that there are different ways to structure your HTML paragraphs. It all depends on you. We created paragraphs the last time when we did about Google, which should still be there. Yes, so you can see we have our paragraphs here. So this is basically how you create paragraphs using your P elements. Pretty straightforward. Then, great. Remember how we talked about adding lines, like adding new lines? Like let's say you want to keep space here inside the paragraph and you want to give another space here. And this is how you want it to look on your browser. But you know, if you go ahead and save this and we open it in the browser, it will actually not show that space that we added. See, there's no space here, but if we check our code, the space is there. But let's say we actually want the space to show. So how do we go about doing it? Right, there's a tag for that, and the tag is called line break. When you want to start a new line, you can use the line break element. So the next word will appear on the new line. Without the line break element, new lines are started only when the sentence reaches the end of the screen. This sentence should be long enough to wrap on your screen. Try resizing your brown and see the position, blah, blah, blah. Okay. basically what they are saying is we want, let's say instead of using enter now, we want this number to be on the new line. Number of other services, we want it to be on the new line. We know if we use enter it will not work, so the best thing to do is to use the line break tag, which is BR, simply BR. It's a standalone tags. Remember how I told you that some tags are actually standalone tags. They don't have closing. This is one of them. The BR tag is a standalone tag. It doesn't have a closing tag. It's simply an opening tag, right? Because it doesn't have any content in between. Basically, what it does is that it starts a new line. So if we save this and we go over to our browser, we load this. Great. You see that number is now on a new line. Because why? We put the BR tag right here. And if you see the way I wrote it here, you don't have to write it like this. Even if you leave it on the same page, on the same line like this, and you see it will still work. See, it's on the same line and it still brings number to the new line. So let's say we want to add multiple line of space in between the sentence or the paragraph. All we have to do is to put multiple of these tags. Right, so let's do 3. Let's save that. Refresh. Great. So you can see that the space has been added. Why? Because we put 3. So there's 1, 2, 3 lines now in between this and this. If you go ahead and check here, you also see the same thing. Yeah. BR. So that's basically what line breaks are for. But let's say we remove the line breaks, right? Let's remove them. How does your browser actually interpret paragraphs? Let's say you have very long paragraphs, which sometimes can happen. How does your browser interpret the paragraph? So let's copy this. Let's copy this one too. Let's paste it in here. So now we have this very long paragraph, right? Let's save this and see how it is displayed in our browser. So you refresh. Great. You see that the paragraph takes up all the available space on the screen till it gets to the end. Then it starts again from the bottom. But usually this doesn't actually look nice. Like imagine coming to a site and you just see all the text going from end to end and end to end. It's not like you're reading a book, right? It doesn't look really nice. So most times this approach is not preferred. That's why people add line breaks. That's for plain HTML. Now if you're not using CSS, the best way to just reduce the size is to add line breaks. So I can simply add line breaks here. And add another one here. Save this. Open it in our browser. Great. And you can see that it looks way better than having everything on a long line till it breaks and continues, right? So this is basically the function of the line break tag or the line break element to start paragraphs on a new line or to add space between paragraphs. That's basically what its function is. Sorry, let me just cancel this. Great. So now that that's done, let's go over to the next one, which is creating preformatted text using the pre-element. The HTML pre-element represents preformatted text, which is to be presented exactly as written in the HTML file. The text is typically rendered using a non-proportional monospace font. White space inside the element is displayed as written. The following text is written. Okay, so basically, what this means is that, let's say, you remember the example we gave earlier where we had a lot of space in between our elements. Let's say it wasn't a mistake, right? It was actually intentional and wanted it to display like that. How do we get it to display like that on our browser? Without the browser shrinking everything to just one space. We use the pre-tag, right? So we use the pre-tag, that's what we use. So let me go ahead and put the pre-tag here. just inside the paragraph, let's say pre, and we come here before this and, let's put the closing pre here. Right, save this, go over to your browser and reload. You see that the space that you added is shown, and not just that, the font is also changed, right? So this is a monospace font. It looks kind of geeky, computery type of thing. Yes, this is how anything you put in, any text you put inside the pre tag, this is how it displays. And the advantage of the pre tag is exactly how you write it, that it's going to display. If you take a closer look, you would see that I also added space in between and make, but the space is not added because and make is not inside the pre tag, right? And another thing you need to know is that the pre tag is a block element, but we'll go into that later. But what it typically means is that when I say block elements take up the whole space available to them. So if I check this now, you would see that the pre tag is here, and the and continues immediately after the pre tag. But why does it not start? Why does it start on a new line here? Is it not supposed to just continue from here? That's because the pre tag is a block element, and block elements take up all the whole space up until the end of the screen. So it took up all the whole space. That's why the remaining paragraph had to continue underneath it, right? So that's basically the function of the pre tag. Most times people use it to write things that they want to display exactly the same way, or even code. So if you want to, let's say, write the pre element, right? That has, let's write it here. In between organize, let's say. Sorry, if it's okay. Let's see. Then we say pre. Then we say and. Great. So save this and go back to our code, our browser rather. You should see it here. Great. See. And just remove the space so that looks more natural. So you see, we have the pre tag written here, and this would make a lot of sense if you are writing code, right? And you want the text to not be looking like normal plain text. You want it to look different. You want it to feel more like a computer thingy, right? So that's where another use for the pre tag. So this is basically the two major use of the pre tag, right? To write text exactly how you want it to show, and to write code and stuff like that. So we have, that's basically the end of all the tags, the main minor tags I'm going to touch today. But after this, we have an exercise. We have a simple exercise here that says we should create the following simple web page for a cafe. Use the text provided to avoid typing it out. Right? So can we copy this? I don't think so. I still have to just type it out. Okay, so let me go ahead and do this quickly. So this is the exercise for today. Example cafe, right? So first of all, let's go back to our code. You can create a new file. I just want to keep working on this one. So I will want to save this as, I want to rename it, so I'll just rename it as example cafe. Save. So first of all, let's just Ctrl A, delete everything, and let's start again. So let's not forget the most important thing in our HTML page, the doc type declaration. So let's go ahead and put that in. Then doc type HTML. Sorry. Once that's done, the root of your HTML document now, which is HTML. Right, so I don't want to get you into the habit of doing this, right? So I'll just type it out. Close this. Right, I want you to get used to typing it out and closing the tag so that in case of anything in the future, you know how to really debug it and see okay, what's wrong. If not, these tools nowadays, they are crazy. They can help you literally just come up with a framework that you can just edit, posting your content here and there, and you're done. So let's first of all let's write the head, and inside the head we have a title, right, which I'll call example cafe, right? So start that out. Then we have the body. And in the body, what do we have? So let's check our documents. Okay, we have a header. Then we have a paragraph, a header, different paragraphs, then another header, right? So that is basically what it looks like. So let's just write it out. The first heading there is obviously very big, so it's going to be a H1. So just give it a H1. So, and it's all caps, so take note of that. Some coffee. Then we have a paragraph underneath it. Welcome to Example Cafe. We'll be developing the site throughout the book. So that's the paragraph, obviously. So let's quickly type that out. So it says, welcome to Example Cafe. We will be developing this site throughout this book. That's pretty much it, right? Okay, I think I made a mistake somewhere. Okay, yes, it's great. So the next thing is another heading. So this is not as big, so I'll just make it a H3, right? A community cafe serving home cooked, locally sourced organic food. So that's H3. A community cafe serving home cooked, locally sourced, what else? Organic food. I think I forgot to put a comma here. Oh, forgot full stop here. Okay, great. So that is it. Locally sourced organic food. Then next we have 3 paragraphs. The first one saying, with stunning views of the ocean. So let's feel free to follow along, right? Because that's how you learn, by practicing. So you can pause when I'm moving too fast, and just try and follow along as we do this together. So it says, with stunning views of the ocean. Stunning views of the ocean. Comma. Example Cafe offers the perfect environment to unwind and recharge your batteries. Example, coffee offers the best environment to unwind and recharge your batteries. Great. Full stop. Then what's the next paragraph? Our menu offers a wide range of breakfasts. So let's go ahead and write that out. Menu offers a wide range of breakfasts, comma, okay, breakfasts, sorry, brunches and lunches, including a range of vegetarian options. So brunches and lunches, including a range of vegetarian options. Full stop. So let's close our tag. Then next we have whether you skip on a fresh hot coffee or a cooling smoothie. Okay, sip, not skip. Whether you sip on a fresh hot coffee or a cooling smoothie, hot coffee or a cooling smoothie, right? Hot coffee or a cooling smoothie. You never need to feel rushed. Okay. You never need to feel rushed. Relax with friends or just watch the world go by. Relax with friends or just watch the world go by. So stop, close that. Then we have another heading. This weekend special brunch. So let's give this another H3. This that caps, okay, no. Weekend special brunch. And we have another paragraph, so let's just stop at English muffin. This weekend, our season of special brunches continue with scrambled eggs or an English muffin. Okay, so that's a P. This weekend, our season of what now? Of special brunches. Special brunches continue with scrambled eggs or that's the name, so English muffins. So yeah, that's basically where we stop. Close this. So let's go ahead and open this in our browser and see what it actually looks like, if we've been able to get what we're asked to do. Don't forget, this is what it's supposed to look like on the browser. So let's save this, go to the browser, refresh. Sorry. Okay, we have to go and open it again because I renamed it. So where did I keep it? Where did I? Okay, how about I just edit this link? Let's see. Example. Great. So this is it. We have, can you zoom in a bit so that you can see it clearly. Right, I believe it's clear now. So you see we have the example cafe. Welcome to the example cafe, blah blah. That should be what is in the book. Yes, great. We have a community cafe serving. Great. And we have our 3 paragraphs. Then we have another heading, another paragraph. So basically see that creating documents in HTML basically is very simple. All we have to do is to write our headings, write our paragraphs using the HTML element, and that's basically it. So from next class, we'll be looking at we'll be working with lists. So just go ahead and start reading on it, try a few things out, make some mistakes, reach out to me, and let's work on it together. But in our next class, we'll be talking about lists in HTML. Right? So see you all in the next one.